now going to try the second of Bruichladdich Fèis releases. This is Rockndaal 2.2, which is a Port Charlotte. So for those of you who are familiar with the distillery, you'll know there's three types of Bruichladdich. We have unpeated Bruichladdich, heavily peated Port Charlotte, and super peated Octomore. So this is the second of those, the Port Charlotte, generally peated to about 40 ppm, so kind of a bit less than Ardbeg, but a chunk more than Bowmore. This, for me, is probably the Fèis release this year, which I'm most excited about and sounds the best on paper. It is a 16-year-old single malt, bottled at 50% and matured in a combination of wine casks and also sherry butts as well. Limited to 2,500 bottles, it comes in at £165, which sounds like a lot of money, but for a 16-year-old Port Charlotte in sherry casks, isn't actually that unusual these days. But very, very excited to try this. I'm expecting a whole heap of peat and a nice sort of fruity sweetness from the wine casks and maybe some kind of spicy Christmas cake notes from the sherry. But as I say, on paper, it sounds delicious. I'm sure it sounds delicious to you at home, but the best way to find out is to open it up and see if it lives up to all the hype. So let's crack this open. Right, lovely dark bottle, as always, for Port Charlotte. I'm expecting a lovely, deep, perhaps ruby red colour. And I'm not too disappointed. A nice amount of colour to that one. I think, yeah, 16 years is a fair amount of time to mature whiskey. And I think it's reassuring that it isn't a light, super light golden colour. Port Charlotte, Bruichladdich, Octomores never have colouring added to it. So this is 100% from the wood, from the oak. We'll give this a quick nose. The smoke is there. Port Charlotte for me has a very distinctive kind of ashy bonfire smokiness. Other Islay malts, the smokiness will be more like kind of TCP or iodine, can be quite aggressive. Port Charlotte for me feels like a much more natural smoke, and that is very prevalent for this one. And I'm not picking up a huge amount of the wine influence or the sherry influence. For me, it is just all kind of ash and bonfires and kind of, you know, ashtrays and all these delicious sounding aromas. But yeah, we'll give this a little taste and see how much of that smoke comes through. For me, it's better on the palate than on the nose. It's got a lovely mouthfeel. As I say, bottled at 50% ABV, which is kind of a hefty strength, but I think with the age, the 16 years in casks, it has mellowed out quite nicely. It's a real kind of quite a dark, dark and stormy, quite moody dram actually, this one. In contrast to Rockndaal 2.1 from Bruichladdich, which was quite fresh and vibrant and quite fun. This is almost the other end of the spectrum. It's very sort of like a brooding smokiness. It's very quite evocative actually. It'd be a lovely dram for maybe like a winter's evening in a log cabin next to the fire. It'd be perfect for that. Perhaps a strange choice for a whiskey festival at the end of May, but it's a good whiskey. It's very lovely, it's very complex. The finish does stay with you long enough. It's a very good whiskey, one to kind of revisit and, you know, perhaps pick up extra flavours you didn't get the first time. This expression is £165, which, as I say, is kind of the going rate for a whiskey like this these days. I don't think I'll be rushing to buy one, but it is, you can understand the appeal. I think for people who love Bruichladdich Distillery and love Port Charlotte in particular, it's everything they'd be looking for. Overall then, a really delicious dram, something for all the Port Charlotte fans to enjoy, something a little bit different, a little treat for those heading to the island, kind of classic Port Charlotte. And for those of you who are on the island already at Fèis, continue to enjoy the rest of your time. Cheers.